Hey, everybody. Super excited to chat today with a company that is changing the way security works fundamentally with automated security validation and a really new approach to cyber defense. Amitai, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Evan?
I'm doing well, and I've been following you for quite some time, so it's really an honor to have you here on the program. For those who don't know of Pantera yourself, maybe introduce yourself and your mission at Pantera.
Sure. Absolutely. So my name is Amitai Ratzon. I'm the CEO of Pantera, really taking the company out of stealth since February 2018, when I've joined co-founder and CTO Arik Liberson, who's, you can say, the brain behind the technology and the idea. Pantera is on a mission to dominate security validation, which in practical terms means that we're a technology company that provides technology to um, big, small enterprises of the world that would like to be in the know versus in the assumption area when it comes to answering the question, how secure am I and how ready am I to deal with the moment of truth of a mega cyber attack that might happen against me? To what extent are my controls ready like they should? To what extent is the mix of stack I have, to what extent is that what I should have in place, and how the configurations work and password policies and other policies, how it would all survive the moment of truth. So we're here to help you know versus assume.
I love that idea of the moment of truth. That's really been a game changer in the cybersecurity industry, this way of thinking. What was the inspiration behind your inception? What was the big idea when you
Yeah.
started out on this mission?
Yeah. So once again, I'll give the credit here to my colleague and partner in crime, Arik Liberson, CTO and co-founder, that at the time, it was 2015, had this eureka moment of, um, while still serving as an officer at an elite IDF unit, an intelligence unit, kind of told himself, I mean, how about if we take what we're doing manually here in the army, red teaming projects with great brains around him, how about if we take that and we basically assemble a technology stack that can take all the wisdom and the know-how that exists in this country and in the IDF, and we actually give it to the enterprise of the world to allow everyone to protect themselves from the bad guys, the threat actors, but from their perspective. So that was Arik's kind of moment of saying, I should retire from the army and pursue my dream. And I basically joined him on this dream. He needed to convince me that that dream is big and audacious and ambitious. And I had to convince him that I'm the right guy to be the CEO, his partner on this journey. And since then, we're running like, father and mother of this company. You can decide who's the mommy and who's the daddy here. But yeah, it has gone on since, it has been going on together since February 2018.
Wow, such an important story and such great work. Well, tell us, let's dive in. I mean, how does your approach to automated security validation differ from traditional pen testing that's well
Yeah.
known, well understood, and a best practice, let's say?
Yeah. Great question. So I have to admit, when we went out of stealth 6 years ago, almost less than 6 years ago, um, when we spoke to companies and talked to them about the notion of automating security validation, automating the pen testing activity, and now it's a common thing. I mean, we're the biggest in the world with 1,000 customers across 50 countries. But once upon a time, it was a very kind of ambitious idea. Some would say very naive. Customers told us, guys, I mean, no one figured out automating the pen testing play. Why do you think you're onto something that big? And how would we know it wouldn't break anything as you do that? No one would let a machine do such kind of surgical work on the
Mm.
infrastructure in production. At the beginning, we've seen many people that were very skeptics. With time, as we got the kind of the credibility and as people gave us the chance to prove ourselves, we've proven that we do that in a very efficient and fast way without causing any damage. So the safety by design, right from the get-go, has been a key principle that then led to our reputation up until now. Because you can imagine that had we done that, but on the way we were to hurt infrastructures in production or interfere with the network in any way, we wouldn't have gotten so far. So that was the first thing we had to fight against. It was the credibility and the how come no one did it before? Are you the only one that thought about it? Because it's too scary to let machines kind of go against us. That's how it started. And since then, it caught like fire. The company has grown exponentially over the past 5.5 years. We're now 350 employees spread across 20 countries. Big sales headquarters in the United States, out of Burlington, Massachusetts. Big presence in Germany, in the UK, many European countries, Latin America, Singapore, with R&D and technology being based out of Israel.
Oh, fantastic. So walk us through the platform and how it can simulate real-world attacks. And what are the benefits?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some benefits I can imagine, but what are the real customers saying?
Absolutely. So first of all, at Penta, we kind of ran away from the word simulation. And I think that takes me back to your previous question that I answered partially. How do we differ? How do we stand out from others? So when we went out of stealth, there were some companies doing breach and attack simulations. And Gartner and the first early adopters confused us with those guys. And they said, are you really like another version of breach and attack simulation? Do you really like simulate stuff with deploying tons of agents in a network? And we said, no, we're an agentless technology. So that's one of the things that make us stand out. We don't deploy any agents, and we're dynamically exploiting the network for real, as opposed to deploying lots of agents and let the agents kind of play with one another. My little kid would call that a cheat. You can't be in the network and then pretend you're this attacker that doesn't know anything and come from the outside. Because if you have foothold in a network and you got the right to install hundreds of agents in a network, then you're not stranger, you know everything. So it's a different game altogether. So Penta, we kind of pretend to be the stranger attacker. It doesn't know anything. And we try to infiltrate your infrastructure from the outside and inside out without knowing anything. So I think that the agentless nature of this company, of this product, and the fact that we dynamically launch attacks in production in a safe by design manner, and that we can prove the concept in 5 to 7 hours, all three ingredients make us stand out big time.
Wow, that's amazing. And, tell us, what are some of the more common, or I should ask, uncommon vulnerabilities that Penta helps companies uncover? You must see a lot.
Yeah, so obviously a customer could expect Penta to be able to exploit all known vulnerabilities that are exploitable. So it's a known thing. If you look at companies like Tenable and Rapid7 and Qualys, all great vulnerability management companies, their reports and other reports would tell that out of, let's say, 1,000 vulnerabilities, probably 70 are exploitable. Meaning there are actual exploits in the open that where hackers actually use that to get in and progress the attack. So everything that's exploitable is obviously part of the arsenal, but it's not just vulnerabilities. In many cases, Penta, the reason why we get to all kinds of interesting achievements during the attack is because of abusing network misconfigurations, is because of human behavior, which is bad. So negligent human beings in the network doing mistakes. So it's not just static vulnerabilities being exploited. It's also human behavior and misconfigurations. It could be, for example, like the simplest example, a company might buy great Cisco equipment, but then a few routers will be left with user admin, password is admin, and it's left in some corridor of the business, and no one paid attention for some strange reason. And you can look at Penta as an X-ray that would unveil all of those mistakes that no one could figure out because no one did it by, intentionally. It happened. So it's like an X-ray. You can look at Penta as an X-ray machine that when a patient comes to the doctor and says, "Hey, doctor, my shoulder is hurting me," and after the X-ray, the doctor tells the patient, "Well, I know I heard about the shoulder, but unfortunately, after the X-ray, I have to tell you that the shoulder is the last thing you need to worry about." So it's more or less what we do. So when we go through the attack, it's as if we're X-raying the whole company, the whole IT infrastructure, and the assets that are exposed from the outside. And we show you and the unknowns. I mean, some people are living with deficiencies in the network, and they say, we know that it exists. Thank you for telling us, but we knew it already. In many cases, there are many unknowns that we unveil, and people are quite shocked.
That is a fascinating approach. And the $1 million question: how do you stay updated with a comprehensive perspective on the latest threats? It's always a challenge. What's your philosophy there?
Absolutely. So I would say that there are two kind of pillars to answer this question. One is that we have a very big research team. So at Pentera, our researchers enjoy from the benefit of researching for all kinds of exploits and unique ways to bypass defenses. And they also get the chance to implement that in the product. As opposed to in other companies, you see research teams that are researching for the sake of prestige, for the sake of saying, hey, we have a research cathedral in this company, which means we're smart people and we think about interesting things. But then none of it really goes into the product in the form of features and modules. At Pentera, our research team, whatever they research for, whatever they finds its way to the product to then add value to people that desperately need it. So that's one thing, the way we stay up to date is that 25 to 30 researchers with huge backlogs of things they want to implement. Some of them are great at bypassing EDRs. Some of them are Linux experts. Some of them are all about breaking into Macs. Some of them are about human behaviors because of their legacy and what they know from before Pentera. I would also say that if you look at the innovations coming from the company, it's not just that. It's not just research outputs. It's also thinking about expanding the attack surface as time goes by. So we started with network infrastructure, as if that's everything you need. But we've realized that we have a gap on everything which is kind of outside the perimeter. So Pentera Surface, one of our products, looks after everything from the outside in. And then people came to us and said in 2021, what about all of those ransomware groups? You're not giving an answer to those ransomware attacks, those unique attacks, and in ways of stealing our information and encrypting our databases. So Pentera came up with a product called Ransomware Ready, right? Which goes the extra mile beyond the traditional attack by also encrypting files and pinging real IOCs outside the firewall to really resemble the threat actors. Lately, we've come up with a product that's called Credentials Exposure that makes threat intel actionable, which is another big innovation. So stolen credentials and threat intel data was always there. It's not our innovation. It was always there. But the way people consumed that information is by getting just CSV, like, Excel files of lots of credentials that allegedly or not belong to them. And the vendor told the customer, hey, could it be that those guys work in this company? Because we found their credentials as part of the Marriott or the Hilton attack. So the customer said, okay, now you gave me this file, but what do I need to do now? To actually call 1,000 people? Some don't work here, some do work here. So vendors created lots of work for users, for customers. So what we do, we take threat intel data, we migrate it into Pentera, and we put it to work as part of the dynamic attack so that continuously you can see whether credentials that were stolen that belong to your employees could actually be the access keys to, the kingdom here.
Wow, that's so clever. Interesting approach. So it wouldn't be a tech chat if we didn't talk about AI. What's your perspective on how AI is enhancing your platform processes? And what are the risks that AI with bad actors introduce? So it's the balancing act there.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying that, enough was said and written about AI and science is still being written about, like, what should be the reaction of the vendor market to AI approaches being used by threat actors. And, enough was said and written about that. I'm not going to overwhelm the audience. What I would say is like a fresh approach to how we use AI in the company. So obviously there are product implications of AI. So we'll soon kind of come up with some modifications to our product where AI is actually helping us basically perform better or faster. But I would actually want to take it to a different angle. I think as a company, we look at AI as a strategic pillar, not just the product itself. In many
Mm,
cases, we see that AI could help our marketing reach more targeted audiences faster. Um, we see that AI could be used for finance work. It could be used for collection work. It could be used for G&A and for HR and for other applications, not just the actual product. Although our researchers and our developers are using AI in many ways. One way, which is quite trivial, is just before you wanna, let's say you wanna write an API um,
mhm.
to some external application. So before AI, you had to do lots of trial and errors. With AI, you can start the development phase at a situation which is much more mature than before, because someone else did all your work, which is ChatGPT. It would kind of tell you what you need to think of, and probably less trial and error, probably more efficient starting writing the code as opposed to AI writing our code. Our guys still write their own code. We don't let AI do that for us at this point.
Yeah, of course, as a CEO, you're looking at the holistic opportunity there. So, yeah, a tremendous opportunity indeed. And how is the competitive landscape looking? I mean, you're taking this really proactive, novel, innovative approach here versus the legacy reactive approaches. Um, you making a dent in the cybersecurity world? I mean, you seem to have your growth and your client base speak for itself. What's next? I mean,
Yeah.
where do you hope to be in the next year or two?
Yeah, so I think I would risk saying that what Wiz did to cloud security and what Armis has done to asset management, Pantera does to
Mm,
security validation. So we're a
mm,
market leader. We're the biggest in the world in what we do, and it's not just me saying. I mean, you can talk to the ecosystem. So we came out, first and probably the fastest with this approach of a piece of tech that could validate against the moment of truth, as we discussed before. And basically, as we see it right now, there is no basically ceiling to what this business could become.
mm.
Basically, we're able to increase by about 100 new enterprises joining in our customer roster every quarter, more or less, and the
Wow.
demand is quite huge. We haven't reached any saturation point, and as much as I can plan right now with market conditions, and let's see whether the market completely recovers, this company could easily IPO 2025, 2026 if it just decides to. We have like a clear line of sight to the 100 million ARR mark by the end of next year. So yeah, we're here to break records, and when you break records and when you do a good job for your customers, your optionality in terms of what you could do with the business is really endless. But as we look at the future, we think of ourselves as a public, independent company, because we think we bring about a revolution, which is as big as the EDR revolution at the time or the AV revolution at the time. We think it's huge.
Huge indeed. Well, congratulations on that. And just one last question in terms of customers, 1,000 plus customers and growing. Is there a particular sweet spot you find in business, enterprise, SME, or verticals? Where are you finding the most traction in the market, if I may
Yes,
ask?
I would say that most traction for this company would really come from 3 or 4 main verticals across the globe. Those would be financial institutions, government, manufacturing
Mm,
companies, healthcares. That's like the 80-20. So the 80 is those verticals, and 20 could be, the airline industry, and so many other industries that are now vulnerable to cyber attacks, because it's not anymore 2023 is not anymore the era of only top tier institutions being attacked. So now we see that mid-market America suffers from cyber attacks and ransomware campaigns, which means that we have to look after a big spectrum of the market. Some of them we go after them proactively, but many
mm.
come to us and we say, wow, a church in Australia, we never thought we would protect these guys, but it happens as well.
Yes, well, everyone has a need here. So it's wonderful work you're doing. Thanks so much for sharing your insights and your vision. Your enthusiasm is so welcome. And stay safe, and hope your friends and family are doing okay through this difficult period. Thanks for everyone for watching. reach out to the team at Pantera with any questions or comments. And thanks for watching.
Thank you very
Take care,
much,
everyone.
everyone.